Darkhawk, issue number 4, the penultimate issue to, I think, a much needed miniseries. Like, the character has just been out of prominence for a long time, and you can only imagine, I'd say within maybe 5-6 years, he'll be making an appearance in live action somewhere. He's like one of like those 90s standouts that really hasn't been talked about for a film appearance anywhere. So I'd imagine we'll get some Darkhawk soon. Probably not, Connor Young here. Probably Chris, but there'll still be a Darkhawk on our screen soon. So, last issue. Did Derek die? I think Derek died last issue. Connor's friend. He tried to avenge his buddy, then just got thrown into the river and saved by Spider-Man. So this issue is pretty much a cleanup of that. We see that Miles saves Connor. He helps him out. They kind of just start connecting. He's like, "Oh, you're the guy from the store. They got those sneakers that I thought were kind of cool." They just start talking and they go to a diner just to talk. And I like this role for Miles because it's kind of allowing him to be the bigger adult figure that he's never really been before. Miles has been around not long in terms of comic book history, but he's been around enough where he could kind of come into that mentor role now if there was a new version of a character to come in. So the fact that we can actually let that happen is kind of cool. Just because if it was Peter, it would still work. But Connor is a new character. Miles is relatively new. It just makes sense that this would be his Darkhawk. Peter had Chris to deal with in the 90s. It would make sense that this generation Spider-Man would have his own Darkhawk to deal with too. So they're just kind of talking, and we see that as they're having some coffee, they cling their cups. Connor's a mess acts up, and it's kind of Miles just explains yeah, that sucks. I mean, it must be hard what you're going through, and I wouldn't even know where to begin dealing with that. And Connor is expressing yeah, it's tough, and I don't know what's going on. You're the only person I really told aside from my friend Derek, and he's the one that was with me in the alley. He's not here anymore. And it's just kind of interesting, and it kind of leads into this when Connor is in the Darkhawk costume, he doesn't have any of these problems coming up. He is just simply dealing with it, and he feels like he's the person he's supposed to be. And you just see as they're having the conversation, Miles keeps getting a text from someone. He keeps interrupting to answer his phone. You just see Connor is just revealing, these things about himself. He's like, when I'm Darkhawk, I feel good. These things in my body, these lesions, they are supposed to be affecting me. But when I'm Darkhawk, everything is so clear and sharp and it's just working perfectly. And you just see Miles is again, it's really smart because Miles isn't instinctively the mentor figure. He's just kind of, putting off what Connor's saying to answer his text. And he's like, dude, you got to stop worrying about everything and start focusing on the why do you always come back to what you're doing here? What's your reason for doing this? And it's kind of interesting. Again, Miles is still figuring out to be that role, which is kind of impressive to see. You see Connor doesn't want to be a hero. He's like, well, then what are you? He's like, I don't know, man. I just want to help a friend, and I just want to know what's going on with me, and I just want to make sure nobody else gets hurt or mixed up in whatever's going on with these guys that they're attacking my, city, my part of the city. It's yeah, that makes sense. And you see a voice outside. It's yeah, I could get behind that. And we see that it's Captain America. Literally just Steve Rogers shows up, and they kind of just go out to solve the problem with Mr. Colt here, which it's very fun. Now, I'm not super versed in the history of Darkhawk. Was there an issue in the 90s where we had maybe a different version of Captain America and Spider-Man teaming up with Chris Powell? Maybe? It feels like this could be an homage to that, but I don't explicitly know if this was something we saw back then. Because, I get Miles, but it's weird to have, just Steve Rogers show up here. In the 90s, would this have been him as Nomad, or would it have been him as, U.S. agent or something? Who knows? So this Colt guy turns out to be ex-Hydra, and the people thought he was long dead, but he's not, age as old as time when it comes to these people. So the trio breaks into the facility, and they just go to town beating up some AIM soldiers. Makes sense to me. Very fun stuff. It looks cool. It's very interesting. Miles kind of gets knocked out by one thing, and we see Connor helps him up, and they just kind of have their team up coming. But this big suited scorpion lobster-like guy just shows up. Clearly the tech that Colt was selling to AIM here, this guy has it. And Connor does a really big super move to attack him. There's a big unibeam bursting from his chest, and everyone's could the previous Darkhawk do that? It's no, not like that. So it's very interesting. And I thought it did a good job of dealing with that. It's a fun wrap up, just like, hey, here's Captain America and Spider-Man teaming up with this Darkhawk to do a battle. That's all it needed to be, really. Like, there was nothing extra that needed to be thrown into there, so I thought it did a good job with that. So they defeat the AIM soldiers quickly. It looks like, we're going to be seeing more of Colt and all that stuff coming up, and maybe Spider-Man will return to the book. But we kind of get like a wrap up with Miles and Connor. And Miles is kind of like, before you go around thinking what you're supposed to be, why don't you appreciate who you are and what you are? Like, life's hard. You shouldn't be so hard on yourself. You did good today. You're doing good overall of everything you're going through. But what do I know? I'm just some guy that sticks to walls, and good luck with everything going on in your life, dude. Which, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me because we're giving Miles that role, but he's not there yet. He still isn't like the, perfect personification of the mentor. So it just makes sense that his words are like, hey, maybe I don't know anything. Maybe I do. You're doing good for what I'm seeing, though, and I've been in this for a while. So, yeah, I mean, keep up the path you're on, and it could be something special that you're doing here, dude. Like, right on. Which is kind of interesting. I think that was kind of a cool idea to explore. We do get another end of the book here where we see Colt is working with Sean. We know Sean is the one that killed Derek. Sean is the one that started like this whole kerfuffle in the Bronx, and basically Colt's giving him a power upgrade, so he's going to turn him into an actual villain. Pretty much, just an actual bad guy for this Darkhawk to fight. Like, if he continues on, this would probably be his villain. And that is the end of this book, and I think, like, we got one issue left of this Darkhawk series. I'd have to imagine that Connor's going to appear somewhere else because this is a well-established character. They gave him a lot of backstory, they gave him a lot of interesting stuff to deal with. This can't be the end of Connor. It's just too much with him that could be done, and I think we'll see it again. So I like this issue. It was kind of satisfying just to see like the team up, just shoving him into the larger Marvel universe. Just like, you got to appreciate what you are, not what you're supposed to be. I think that's a fun message to throw out to Connor here because he kind of needed to hear that right now. And overall, this book was just pretty solid. The artwork was good, the writing was good, Spider-Man and Captain America felt in character, and that's really cool to see. And Kyle Higgins, again, he's just a strong writer who does a lot of stuff like this, and he just makes it work really well. And I understand why, him specifically with the stuff he's written before and the stuff he's working on currently, why Darkhawk would be the well he'd want to go back to at Marvel. That makes sense to me, and that's a really cool thing to see. So I liked this Darkhawk book. It was pretty fun, pretty interesting. Not the best of the series, I think, but hey, just a fun action sequence with some characters in the MCU. Very fun to see. So Darkhawk, issue number 4, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.